Hello again everyone, Cameron here for another video showcasing my progress with learning to fly the DJI FPV. Since the last video, I ended up getting a microphone, so hopefully the audio quality will be much nicer this time. This is day 4 out on the real world for me. I have done small amounts in the virtual sim on my iPad as well, but manual mode is too much for me to think about at this stage. Since in my last video you saw me crash in sport mode, I would like to spend more time getting the skills and confidence in sport mode before I even think about attempting any flying in manual mode. I'm also not sure if spending time in normal or sport mode is negative learning or negative training. The skills I'll learn don't really apply in manual mode, since in manual mode it's a completely different way of flying. It's much more like flying a helicopter than a standard drone. So yeah, I'm just wondering if I'm doing more harm than good spending time in sport mode rather than just jumping straight into manual mode. Either way, I'm not ready just yet to lose my drone, so I'm quite happy to spend the next few weeks just getting used to it. The location I'm flying around today is called Hamilton Lake. This is an area where drones are allowed to fly around since it's owned or controlled by the local council, but I still have to remain below the highest obstacle or tree, as it's classified as a sheltered area, and that's because I'm within 4 kilometres of an aerodrome. Well, actually it's a helipad for the hospital, but same thing with regards to flying drones around the area. Those of you with a good eye or who are familiar with the area might even be able to spot the hospital on a few of the passes. As you can see, the conditions today are very nice. It's a hot sunny day with only a few low clouds around and the occasional high cirrus cloud. It is, however, very windy. If you look at the lake, you can see wind lanes or the ripples on the water. This indicates a reasonably strong wind speed. Luckily for me, in normal and sport mode, the drone takes care of the stabilization, so you tend to only notice the wind on the video when I get affected by gusts. My plan today was to fly over the water and get some footage of people sailing around, but I didn't have the confidence to take it out too far. Something about the strong winds and not being too sure if I had the ability to not crash into the lake, so I only managed to venture a small way out, basically the equivalent of only getting my toes wet. Because it was such a windy day, there were a few people out and about in their yachts or sailboats, as well as a couple of people with their remote controlled ones too, which was pretty cool to see. The area I'm currently flying around tends to be quite popular. On my scouting run, I noticed a few people and cars parked under trees, escaping the heat. It was about 27 or 28 degrees Celsius today. There was also a large flock of ducks and other birds milling around this area, which I didn't really want to annoy, so I needed to get across the road to the other side. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. The rules here in New Zealand state that unless we have a traffic management plan in place and have the required documents, we aren't allowed to fly over roads, even if the coast is clear and I'm just crossing over it like I would be in this case. So I had to get out of my nice, cool, air-conditioned car and walk across the road to launch from the other side. Once on the other side, I did another perimeter sweep to check the coast was clear and free of people or animals. It's a nice big open space, ideal for walking dogs, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to scare anyone or anything. Like my last video, I haven't actually seen this area from this perspective before. I had no idea that there were 3 cricket pitches out here. I thought it was just a big empty field. This was a much more suitable area to spend time in sport mode, as you can see. Nice big open spaces, and it has suitable line references on the ground to practice lining up on, as well as to visualize any drift I have during turns. I spend a bit of time getting used to the inertia of the drone and figuring out how much space it takes up during a turn. A cricket pitch is a great reference to practice on, as it's pretty much a runway. After a while, I realise I can make a small racetrack pattern out of the 3 cricket pitches and practice linking up the 3 of them into a circuit. I start off pretty rough, overshooting most of my turns, but as time goes on, I manage to get a feel for it and semi-consistently manage to hit the start of my runways head on, overfly the length of it, and cross the end threshold without making any big corrections to the flight path. When I managed to fly through my imaginary gates or reference points at the beginning and end of each runway with speed and judging the correct amount of drift through the turns, it was incredibly satisfying. I'm sure I'm not only speaking for myself when I say it's fun to fly fast, and flying at 100 km an hour on the straights low to the ground was just so much fun. Relatively speaking, 100 km an hour isn't that fast, especially for aircraft, but it definitely felt fast experiencing it through the goggles. Even though I was sitting in my car across the road, it certainly felt like I was in an aircraft flying around at under 10 feet above the ground, which is something I never get to experience in real life. Normally I'm flying between 18 and 25,000 feet. The rest of the video is much the same, so I'll speed it up for you. Next week I'm heading to Napier, which is in Hawke's Bay on the east coast of New Zealand. The weather there is normally very good, and there are some nice locations to fly drones around too. So watch this space. Hopefully I'll be able to get permission to fly around a pretty cool landmark. Thanks for watching. That's all I have for today, and until next time.